Let's start with some actual men, some real modern day heroes who are taking a stance when they see something as abhorrent as Dylan Mulvaney, who is mocking women full time. He's an actor. He has always been an actor. And this, I think, is probably his greatest act. I will tell you that Kid Rock did not like the fact that Bud Light decided to partner or sponsor, whatever it was. They created a can for Dylan Mulvaney, a special can to commemorate his 365 days of girlhood, 365 days of being a pervert, of desiring to dress like a little girl and have little girl experiences. And Kid Rock, after learning that Bud Light, which is a drink that he apparently likes, had partnered with him, did not just take a strong stance, he made an incredible video, and I would like to show you that video now.
Grandpa's feeling a little frisky today. Let me say something to all you and be as clear and concise as possible.
That is him shooting Bud Light cans in an open field.
Oh, wow, thanks for the commentary. Yeah, that's so manly. Stereotype, I'm a Republican and I shoot things I don't like trans activists and equality. Fuck equality and fuck trans activists and fuck poor people.
Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. Have a terrific day.
Just absolutely love that. When I saw that, I was like, yes, bring back manly men. Because you know what manly men do? They defend women. They defend women when they're being mocked. And that's exactly what Kid Rock is doing. And he is not the only person with the platform to take a stance.
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
And that went over real great, didn't it?
We also have Travis Tritt, one of the greatest voices in country music.
Greatest voices in country music? Travis Tritt? What year is it?
Who has decided not to just privately boycott Anheuser-Busch, which allegedly a lot of country music stars are doing, but he wanted to take a public stance, and he tweeted this. He tweeted, "I will be deleting all Anheuser-Busch products from my tour hospitality rider. I know many other artists who are doing the same. Other artists who are deleting Anheuser-Busch products from their hospitality rider might not say so in public for fear of being ridiculed and canceled. I have no such fear. In full disclosure, I was on tour sponsored by Budweiser in the 90s. That was when Anheuser-Busch was American-owned, a great American company that later sold out to the Europeans and became unrecognizable to the American consumer. Such a shame."
Travis Tritt, superstar, found his way back on top, virtue signaling to the right wing that he hates homosexuals and trans people. Fuck you, dude.
And he has also responded to a user who asked for him to list all related Bud products by posting the logos of 30 beer brands that are associated with Anheuser-Busch, which is Budweiser, Beck's, Busch, Corona, Stella Artois. I mean, there's a ton of them, and you should go and pursue that because it's not just Bud Light that is under the Anheuser-Busch brand.
30 beer brands that are associated with Anheuser-Busch? Or just have similar code of ethics? How about name 3 that don't? I am begging you to give me 3 that stand against the trans community openly. Let's hear them. I'll be waiting here. And it's always the Republicans banning shit. They always have the excuse, well, we're banning it because you're killing fucking babies. We're banning that because you're cutting off teenagers' private parts with samurai swords. And it's like, no, none of that's happening. But they say it like it's happening, but then they'll say, but you agree with that, and that makes you a piece of shit. You are a samurai sword cutting piece of shit.
I do want to say this. He's exactly right in telling you the history of the brand. I was very shocked to see this because I know personally that the Anheuser-Busch family is extremely conservative. They are a family that is down in Missouri. I have a friend that used to date somebody in that family.
Oh, of course. You think you can tell Candace Owens otherwise? Dude, she knows someone who knew someone who dated someone in the Bush family. Gotcha! Burn, bitch!
And I was so miffed by this. I was just completely miffed. And I reached out and I said, what's going on? Like, how could they possibly say that this is okay, it begs the question, what is happening in these boardrooms? Like, I don't actually fundamentally understand.
Yeah, that holds water. A lot of water that holds.
How we could have such a small population of individuals, the trans community, right, that are having this much influence in pop culture. Like, what is the agreement that all of these corporations are coming to push this delusion, knowing fully well that the majority of Americans do not support this, the majority of Americans cannot relate to this?
How about I try to break it down in terms that a right-winger can understand? You know the story of David and Goliath, the Christian story? Why was that story so popular? 'Cause the big bad is picking on the teeny weeny nobody. And that teeny weeny nobody stood up and took down the big bad with smartness, with using their heads, with critical thinking. The reason why that story is so popular, not just the Christian religion, in all areas, is because that logic inspires people. Whenever 30% of the people are grouping up on a minority smaller than them, the majority bigger than the 30% is going to push back. And that's all that's happening. It's a bigger version of David and Goliath. Okay, great. Since you have just literally admitted you don't fundamentally understand, let me help you. Help me help you by just listening to the facts. Take in the data.
Most Americans are not buying this anti-trans hysteria, and they're not falling for anti-trans propaganda by and large in red states too. For example, a Mason-Dixon poll released in late February found that 71% of Kentucky residents oppose laws banning gender-affirming care for minors, and yes, that includes 62% of Republican Party voters. Now, at the national level, voters are a little bit more divided based on party affiliation than people in Kentucky, at least according to this poll conducted by NPR and Ipsos, but they found back in 2022 that only 31% of Americans support bans on gender-affirming care for trans youth, while 47% oppose them, and 21% aren't even familiar with this issue at all. Ari Drennan shared the results from this Grinnell College national poll conducted by Selzer & Co., and as you can see, a majority of Americans oppose bans on gender-affirming care. This includes 78% of Democrats and 52% of independents. And while anti-trans propagandists have successfully driven up support for these bans among the GOP's base, it seemingly backfired among the general population, and opposition to these bans have actually grown.
It's always the same thing with the right-wingers. Say, no, you didn't ask the question the right way. You need to ask it, are you okay with going up to a child, pulling their pants down, and taking a dull samurai sword, chopping off their breasts without even looking? They're hiring blind doctors, blind butchers with samurai swords to chop off these children's body parts. They're cauterizing the wounds with torches, and you're telling me you're okay with that? They take a small, teeny, tiny truth, which is they're doing a surgery, and then they blow it up to tenfold to the 10th power and say that's what's happening. And if you're okay with that, then you're just as bad as that. How can they think that works?
The right-wing astroturfed group Gays Against Groomers took issue with the sampling size, stating that 1,000 adults is not representative of the entire nation. Now, they then retweeted a much more accurate Twitter poll by user LB, who found that 78.9% of their right-wing followers are against gender-affirming care, and since this poll aligns with their beliefs, well, it's of course more accurate. The poll is basically biased because it wasn't worded in a biased way so as to produce results that he'd agree with. You know, the entire poll is just bullshit, so it's a flat-out lie. I refuse to believe this. It's unequivocally wrong. Rejects the finding that 78% of Democrats feel this way, and this Twitter user claims that this poll is actually an example of selective and manipulated statistics. See, because Grinnell would be reputable only if they exclusively poll Republicans and ask them if chopping off kids' dicks is good or bad. That would constitute a reputable poll, according to these dumb fucks.